My cousin Rachel's wedding was exactly what you'd expect from the Turner family: excessive, showy, and designed to remind everyone of our status in Boston's social circles. The reception was held at the most expensive hotel in the city, where guests were currently competing to prove who had the most impressive job title. Vice President at Morgan Stanley, Uncle James announced proudly, adjusting his Brioni tie. Mate partner at Sullivan Cromwell, Cousin Mark added, champagne sloshing slightly as he gestured. Then the attention turned to me. And Sarah, darling, Aunt Patricia's voice dripped with false concern, still working from home with your little, what do you call it? The Turner Foundation, I supplied, smoothing my simple black dress, costly but understated, unlike the flashy designer wear surrounding me. Right, your foundation, Cousin Rachel snickered from her bride's seat. Didn't you start that after leaving Goldman? Such a brave career change. The implied air quotes around brave were clear to everyone. In Turner family language it meant foolish, disappointing, possibly insane. Leaving a prestigious banking job to start a charitable foundation? Unforgivable. Still working in your pajamas? Uncle James chimed in, earning appreciative laughs. Must be nice to have all that free time. I sipped my champagne, thinking about the 16-hour days I'd been pulling lately, reviewing grant applications and coordinating with financial institutions. About the meetings with corporate boards, the late-night calls with international partners, the complex web of investments and aid programs I'd built over the past 3 years. How do you even make money? Rachel's new husband asked, clearly trying to understand how I afforded my seat at this very expensive wedding. Before I could answer, a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit approached our table. I recognized him immediately: James Wilson, head of corporate lending at First Boston Bank. Miss Turner, he said, nodding respectfully. Do you have a moment? The board reviewed your proposal this morning. The table fell silent. Uncle James's fork paused halfway to his mouth. Of course, I replied, standing. Please excuse me. The Foundation's grant program, Wilson continued as we stepped away, but still within earshot of my family. It's exactly what these struggling companies need. Your innovative approach to corporate rescue funding. Sarah's foundation? I heard Rachel whisper. What is he talking about? The first transfer will be tomorrow, Wilson was saying. $50 million for the initial phase. The Turner Foundation's grant will save at least 30 companies in the New England region alone. Dad, who had been unusually quiet during the previous conversation, stopped laughing. His face showed the first flicker of uncertainty I'd seen since I'd left Goldman Sachs. 50 million? Uncle James sputtered from behind us. I smiled, thinking of all the family dinners where they'd question my choices, mocked my vision of combining profitable investment with social impact. Perfect, I told Wilson. And the Anderson manufacturing situation? Your emergency funding arrived just in time, he confirmed. 2,000 jobs saved. The press release goes out Monday. The silence from the family table was becoming deafening. Anderson Manufacturing was one of the largest employers in Boston, and owned by my father's oldest friend. Sometimes the best revenge is served with a side of social impact. The wedding reception's carefully maintained atmosphere of wealth and status was cracking. I could feel eyes following me as Wilson and I discussed the details of the foundation's latest initiatives. Every mention of millions in funding, every reference to major companies and banking institutions, landed like small explosions at the family table. The governor's office called this morning, Wilson continued, pulling up documents on his tablet. They're very interested in expanding the foundation's small business programs statewide. Rachel's new husband choked on his champagne. His family owned several struggling small businesses in the area. We'll need to coordinate with local banks, I replied, making notes on my phone. Set up a meeting with the regional directors next week? Already done. They're eager to partner with the Turner Foundation after seeing the results in Connecticut. Mom appeared at my elbow, her social mask slipping slightly. Sarah, darling, perhaps you could explain. That is, your father and I weren't aware. Aware that I've built one of the largest corporate rescue foundations on the East Coast? I smiled. Funny how that happens when you stop listening to your daughter 3 years ago. Wilson's phone buzzed. Excuse me, Miss Turner. The Reuters reporter is calling about the Anderson story. As he stepped away, Dad approached, his face a complex mix of confusion and dawning realization. Anderson Manufacturing, he said quietly. Jack Anderson called me last week talking about a miracle save. Some anonymous foundation stepped in with emergency funding and a restructuring plan. That was you. The same foundation you called a hobby at Christmas, I confirmed. We specialize in saving companies that traditional banks won't touch. Companies like Anderson's, which employs half your golf club members, by the way. Aunt Patricia edged closer, suddenly very interested. But Sarah dear, how did you? That is, the resources required. Remember when I left Goldman? I turned to face the growing crowd of relatives. Everyone assumed I was running away from success. Actually, I was running toward something better. I took my bonus, my contacts, and my understanding of corporate finance and built something new. A charitable foundation? Uncle James scoffed, but his voice lacked its usual certainty. A hybrid, I corrected. We provide emergency funding to viable companies that just need time to adapt. Take equity stakes. Help them modernize. The profits go back into the foundation, funding more rescues. The Anderson deal alone, Wilson added, rejoining us, will return about 200% on investment over 5 years. All of which the foundation will use to save more companies, more jobs. Rachel's perfect bridal makeup couldn't hide her shock. But you work from home. Sometimes, I agreed. Usually when I'm on calls with Europe or Asia. Our partnership with the World Bank keeps me busy across time zones. World Bank. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. I pulled up the foundation's latest annual report on my phone, displaying pages of numbers that made Uncle James's banking salary look like pocket change. Would you excuse me? I said, noting another message from Wilson's team. The Tokyo office is calling about a potential rescue in Singapore. As I walked away, I heard Rachel's new husband frantically whispering to his father about their family business's cash flow problems, and whether the Turner Foundation accepted applications for assistance. Sometimes success isn't measured in corner offices and designer labels. Sometimes it's measured in jobs saved and companies rebuilt. And sometimes working from home means running an empire in your pajamas. The rest of the wedding reception took on a distinctly different tone. Relatives who had been dismissing my little foundation were suddenly very interested in discussing corporate finance and social impact investing. Even Rachel managed to stop talking about her honeymoon long enough to ask about grant applications. I was reviewing a proposal on my tablet when Dad pulled up a chair beside me, looking older than I'd ever seen him. The Anderson deal, he said quietly. Jack told me the foundation that saved his company insisted on keeping worker benefits and pensions intact. Most investors would have stripped those first. That's why we're not most investors, I replied, still reading. Healthy companies need healthy workers. It's not charity, it's good business. $300 million in the first round of funding, he mused, clearly having done his homework. The Turner Foundation, you kept the family name. I finally looked up. Because I believed in what it could mean. Not just old money and social status, but actual impact. Real change. Mom appeared with fresh champagne, her earlier embarrassment replaced with something that looked like pride. Tell us, she said softly. Tell us what you've really been doing these past 3 years. So I did. I told them about the late nights building financial models that combine profit with purpose. About the first rescue deal, a small manufacturing company in Rhode Island that now employed twice as many people as before. About the network of banks, investors, and corporations who'd come to see the foundation as a new model for corporate rescue. Last month, I pulled up more figures. We saved a tech company in Seattle. Used our equity stake to prevent a hostile takeover that would have moved thousands of jobs overseas. The stock price tripled. And the profits? Uncle James asked, drawn into the conversation despite himself. Fund the next rescue. And the next. We're not a charity, we're a perpetual engine for corporate transformation. Wilson returned with more papers for me to sign. Miss Turner, the Singapore deal is ready. And the governor's office sent over the small business proposal. Rachel's new husband practically leaped from his seat. Sarah, about our family's companies. Submit an application through the website, I said, signing the documents. We review each case on merit, not family connections. But surely. Aunt Patricia started. No exceptions, I cut her off. That's how we maintain our credibility. And our success rate. Dad was quiet watching me work. Finally he asked, "Why didn't you tell us? All this time. Would you have believed me?" I smiled slightly. 3 years ago you said leaving Goldman was throwing my life away. That working from home meant I wasn't serious about success. I was wrong, he admitted, the words clearly difficult for him. The foundation's board meets next week, I said, gathering my things. We're reviewing candidates for new directors. People who understand both finance and social impact. He straightened, years of corporate instincts kicking in. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that the Turner name could mean something different. Something better. I stood up. The meetings at my home office. Business casual, no need for banker suits. In your pajamas? Mom asked, but this time there was no mockery in her voice. Actually, I grinned, I usually wear yoga pants when I'm saving companies. As I left the reception, I heard Uncle James explaining to his banking friends how he'd always supported my innovative approach to corporate finance. Rachel was Googling the foundation on her phone, probably calculating how she'd never actually meant those snide remarks about my career. But what mattered most was Dad's expression as he read the foundation's mission statement on his phone: transforming corporate rescue through sustainable impact investment. The next week he showed up at my home office in khakis and a polo shirt, ready to learn a new way of doing business. Mom brought coffee and actually asked questions about our investment strategy. Sometimes the best way to change minds is to change the world. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is prove that success doesn't need corner offices or designer suits. It just needs purpose, vision, and maybe a really good pair of yoga pants.